Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with a cute and short warm-up story. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Revenge by Canine. I live with 3 other guys and my dog. I'd love to just live with my dog, but I'm poor, so I need the other humans to help pay for rent and bills. 2 of these guys are awesome housemates, clean up after themselves, considerate to work and sleeping schedules, helpful when asked to be helpful. The 3rd housemate, not so much. From here on out, the 3rd guy will be referred to as AH. Any guesses on the acronym? Anyway, I went to Chicago for the holidays to visit my sister and my nephew. I don't trust anyone with my dog, and I didn't want him to be a burden during the holidays, so I dropped him off at my parents' house. He's a very loved dog, and the entire house missed him during his brief absence. When I got back into town, I got my dog from my parents and headed home. All the housemates missed my dog, as he's a bit of a staple of the house. When I finally got home, long drive, crappy weather, I was thrilled to find the house empty. My dog couldn't have been happier either. He found a nice, cozy spot on my bed and immediately went to sleep. Fast forward a few hours. AH comes home from work, yells my dog's name to come greet him. My dog sits on my bed and doesn't move a muscle, just looks AH in the eye and goes back to sleep. Next housemate gets home, dog couldn't be happier to see his old friend. Next housemate gets home, dog is giddy. Even ex-girlfriend decides to visit. Dog is jumping with joy. All the while, AH watches these interactions, one at a time, sour at what's happening. He's very hurt. I'm very satisfied. Dog, happy as a clam, gives me a story to share with all of you. And our second story. Does the threat of malicious compliance count? I lived with my sister for a few years a while back. She's never really been one to take crap. She has a line of hedges on her property line next to her driveway. It basically goes from right to left, my sister's house, my sister's driveway, hedges, neighbor's driveway, neighbor's house. One day, the neighbor decided that my sister's hedges were too tall and she should trim them. Being a good neighbor, she asked me to trim them down a little as they were getting a bit shaggy. I do so, leaving relatively square 7-foot hedges. Neighbor decides this wasn't enough. She told my sister that the hedges were her responsibility and she should have them professionally done. My sister said she'd be willing as long as the neighbor paid half. The neighbor refused because they're on your property. For craps and giggles, my sister asked our cousins, who are landscapers, what it would cost. It was much more than she wanted to spend when she or I could do the job 90% as well for the cost of gas for her hedge trimmer. She tells this to the neighbor, who's not happy, and tells her as such. You have to do something about the hedges. So my sister, after getting an earful, throws her hands up and says, Fine, Denise, you want me to do something about the hedges? I'll do it. I'm calling the landscapers right now, and I'm just going to have them tear everything out. I can't afford the maintenance every year. You can't do that. They're on my property too. You told me they were my responsibility. Fine, I'll pay for the trimming. And that's the story of how my sister gets her hedges trimmed for free every spring. And our next story. Screw me over? I take away your promotion. For 18 months, I'd been working from home, as most of us had. From a work perspective, this had been great. I'd been more productive than when I was in the office, been able to work more flexible hours, and have saved a ton of money by not commuting. My workplace had an agreement that those working from home can do what hours they want, so long as we're able to answer urgent calls in core hours and we get all our work done. Fair enough as far as I'm concerned. For 16 months, this worked great, as above. Then, over a few weekends, I had to clear out of the house and took pictures of all the items that are in good condition but we no longer want, with a view to giving it away to whoever wants it. One day, when I'm working from home, I take my lunch break, make a quick sandwich, and post the items that I'm giving away on one of those local Facebook free pages. I didn't know it at the time, but one of those managers, called Shambles henceforth from my work, was also signed up for that page and saw my post. He then took it upon himself to go to the owner of the company and tell him that I was slacking off and posting on Facebook during work hours. For context, this wasn't my boss, who was super chill, so long as everything was done on time, nor was the complaint to my boss, but to the owner of the company. We're a big business, so there's a lot of people in the chain of command between me and the owner. And to top it off, I'd been doing a lot of work for Shambles. He'd outsourced the running of entire projects to me over the last 18 months, all of which I'd executed well and he'd taken ample credit for. And this was the only time in 18 months I'd posted anything on Facebook, because I never post. So the owner contacted me. And to be fair, he's a decent guy. The conversation went like this. Owner: I've been told you've been posting on Facebook during work hours. Just be smart about it. It doesn't look good when colleagues see it. Me: completely understood. Just so you know, I posted that during my lunch break. Owner: I was told you were posting at noon. The company lunch break is usually 1 to 2. Me: I did, but that's because when I'm working from home, I always take my lunch from 12 to 1. Owner: Okay, I don't have an issue with that. Just keep your head down. Like I said, a decent guy. I wasn't really in trouble, and the owner didn't seem to care. But then I started to think, wait, who the hell has gone to the owner with this in the first place? Long story short, a coworker who was working on site that day heard on the grapevine that Shambles had been complaining to the owner about me and how I'm always on social media when I should be working. I literally only have Facebook, and I only use that for Messenger 99% of the time. As I said before, Shambles likes to outsource work to me. I never minded this. The work was varied, and it broke the week up. Plus, my own boss didn't mind, as I always had my work for him done on time. However, I never got recognition for this extra work. For 2 years, I managed a sub-department completely on my own because he didn't have time to do it. I didn't get a penny more for it, but it was a good group of people, and I enjoyed getting experience of management. Well, after this, every time Shambles came to me with an issue, I would say I was super swamped, but that I'd try to deal with it if I had time. The projects he tried to outsource to me, I completely rejected, saying that I had a full plate from my actual job, and that sub-department I ran, we'll get to that. Over the next couple of months, Shambles starts missing his deadlines, issues come up with existing projects that he hasn't fixed, and employees are complaining that every time they go to him with an issue, it doesn't get resolved. It dawns on me at this point that I've basically been doing this guy's job for him for years. F that. I set up a meeting with my boss and put forward my arguments on why I should be promoted, or really why I should have been ages ago. I point to all the projects I've successfully run, as well as the sub-department I've managed for 2 years. He completely agrees and says he'll take it to his boss. Now somehow, I don't know how, but when I go to the next meeting with my boss's boss, Shambles is there too. He's on the same level in the company as my boss's boss, a little phased but not willing to give up. I put my arguments forward to them. Shambles lets me finish, then proceeds to tell me that I don't know enough about our work to manage. I don't have the required people skills, and then he tells me, and this is verbatim, besides, people here don't respect you. They respect me. I know I'm a good manager. If you really think about it, you know you wouldn't be. I forget what else was said after that, but I was completely destroyed. Boss's boss comes up to me afterwards and tells me that Shambles is a jerk, but unfortunately, he's got the approval of the higher-up, so what he says has way too much sway for him to go against him. I tell boss's boss that if that's the way it is, I'm going to look for other employment. He sighs and says, I don't blame you. Cue pro-revenge. During the time it took me to look for and apply to other jobs, I have to think about how I can get back at Shambles. He's used me for years and is now blocking my promotion. I'd already stopped working on his stuff and his projects were going from bad to worse, but I needed something more. Now this next part could be an entire post on its own, so I bulleted it for brevity. I'm an accredited internal auditor for our quality systems. I ask if I can be assigned a couple of last audits before I leave to help them out. I carry out these audits and, using my intimate knowledge of Shambles projects, find every single issue I can. A number of people also hate Shambles and give me more dirt on him. Someone gives me breakthrough information that Shambles has been forging signatures and bypassing multiple company procedures to make his KPIs look better. I write up the report with tons of evidence attached and send it off. The report gets flagged at the highest level because of what it shows. Shambles gets dragged over the coals. I wish I could say this story ends with Shambles getting fired and having to sell his body on the street for scraps, but obviously, using all the connections he has, he keeps his job. I later found out, though, that he was due a massive promotion, as in catapulted to the top of the company, running whole divisions kind of thing. That never happened, though. With his declining numbers, as well as a damning audit showing all his shortcomings, he's basically told he'll never progress beyond where he is and that he's lucky to have a job at all. He still works there, and I'm told his ego has been taken down a whole washing line worth of pegs. As for me, I'd love to say I got a better job with a massive raise. That's half true. I decided to pursue my dream job, literally since I've been a kid dream job, in a totally different industry. All the experience I had counted in my favor, and although I took a bit of a pay cut, I've never enjoyed work more. Oh, and that sub-department I was running, they knew that when I left, Shambles would take over running them again, so in my last month at the company, I gave them all tutorials on how to search for jobs and pass interviews. I'd worked in recruitment previously. I've heard from a number of them since that they'd landed better jobs and thanked me in part for it. Not the perfect ending, but I'm damned happy with it. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.